You're scrolling through the news and suddenly see hurricane heading your way. You switch channels and now it's Typhoon Alert. Wait, did the storm just get a new stage name? Did it sign with a talent agency? Or is Mother Nature just messing with us? Either way, it's big, it's spinning, and it's about to rearrange the neighborhood. I'm Professor Everything, and today we'll be answering the question, what is the difference between a hurricane and a typhoon? Right here on Explaining Everything. Here's the big reveal. Hurricanes and typhoons are literally the same type of storm. They're both tropical cyclones, which is the fancy meteorological term for giant spinning nightmare made of angry ocean water and wind that hates your roof. The only actual difference between a hurricane and a typhoon is where it happens. That's right. All this chaos, billions in damage, newscasters getting blown sideways on live TV, and the distinction comes down to geography. Imagine if earthquakes had different names depending on which street they occurred on. Oh no, it's a shaky breaky deluxe. That one only happens on the east side. To be exact, if the storm forms in the Atlantic Ocean or the Northeast Pacific near the Americas, it's called a hurricane. If the exact same type of storm forms in the Northwest Pacific near East and Southeast Asia, it's called a typhoon. And in case you're wondering if it forms in the Indian Ocean or the South Pacific, it's just called a cyclone. Because apparently someone in the naming department said, let's make this harder. So yes, same storm. Mother Nature just goes by a different stage name depending on the region, as if she's on a world tour and keeps changing her merch. Let's talk about why this naming chaos exists. You might expect some deep scientific reasoning, but it's really just because different parts of the world created their own naming systems long before the internet forced everyone to agree on anything. The term hurricane comes from huracan, a Taino word referring to an evil storm spirit. The term typhoon comes from typhoon in Chinese, which roughly translates to great wind. And the word cyclone comes from the Greek word koiklos, meaning circle, because that's exactly what these storms do. They spin around like the planet's least fun merry-go-round. Meteorologists eventually standardized how they categorize the storms, like using the Saffir-Simpson scale. But they didn't bother standardizing the names themselves. So, the modern scientific explanation for why hurricanes and typhoons have different names is basically, we tried fixing it. It was already too late. Everybody was attached to their favorite name. Here's a common myth. Typhoons are always stronger than hurricanes. Not true. Typhoons tend to produce some of the most powerful storms on Earth, but not because they're a different type. It's because the Northwest Pacific is basically the perfect storm-making machine. The waters are warmer, the conditions are right, and the ocean is like, what if we made this one extra dramatic? However, whether it's called a hurricane or a typhoon, the storm itself follows the same basic physics. Warm ocean water is the fuel. Rising humid air powers the engine. Earth's rotation makes it spin. And then, it does the wind equivalent of flipping over your entire neighborhood. So while the naming is location-based, the strength comes from conditions, not the title. Also, typhoons in the Western Pacific often reach Category 5 intensity more frequently because the warm water content is deeper and more consistent. Hurricanes in the Atlantic also hit Category 5, Katrina, Andrew, Irma, but less often. Basically, the Pacific is the Jim Bro of the oceans, bigger, hotter, and always showing off. Another question people ask: do hurricanes and typhoons spin differently? Yes, but again, not because of the name, but because of where they happen. Thanks to the Coriolis effect, storms in the northern hemisphere spin counterclockwise, and storms in the southern hemisphere spin clockwise. This is true whether it's a hurricane, a typhoon, or a cyclone. The name doesn't change the physics. The storm isn't like, oh, I'm a typhoon now, time to flip directions. It's all hemisphere-based, not tidal-based. As for seasons, Atlantic hurricanes are most common from June to November, peaking around September. Typhoons in the Northwest Pacific have a longer season and can form year-round, though most appear from May to October. So typhoons are like that one friend who's always ready to go out, while hurricanes stick to a schedule. So, what's the real difference between a hurricane and a typhoon? Just the map. That's it. They're the same storm, powered by the same physics, built from the same warm ocean water, and capable of the same "let me rearrange your entire city" energy. The only thing that changes is where they form and what the locals historically decided to call them. It's the world's most dramatic example of same vibes, different address. So the next time someone asks, what's the difference? You can now confidently say, it's basically the same storm. It just has commitment issues with its name. If you learned something new, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay safe always. Also, if you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for tuning in, and join us next time here in the channel that answers all the why, what, who, where, and how questions you've always wondered about, here on Explaining Everything.